You're welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. Now we'll have to cross over to Parliament where the sitting is ongoing. Trade Minister Alan Kyerematen is the third witness to be meeting the team. Let's go over there now.
Did the ministry compel, force, terrorize anybody to pay money to the ministry, either by extortion, by levy, by collection, or otherwise, including psychologically?
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member, this inquiry, this question that you posed, is very important, very critical. But I want, in responding to your question, provide two definitions of extortion. One is a general definition, and the other is a legal definition. The general definition of extortion is the practice of obtaining something, especially money, through force or threats. I repeat, the practice of obtaining something, especially money, through force or threats. The legal definition, that's Section 247 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. A public officer is guilty of extortion who, under color of his office, demands or obtains from any person, whether for purposes or for himself or any other person, any money or valuable consideration which he knows that he is not lawfully authorized to demand or obtain, or at a time at which he knows that he is not lawfully authorized to demand or obtain the same. Maybe if we proceed on the general definition, this is not a court of law. I'm unable to imagine how an exercise designed to mobilize voluntary contributions from sponsors towards the organization of an event could be described as an exercise that is designed to use force or threats to obtain money from individuals. Because once we agree, and I'm not sure that there's been any disagreement on this matter, that this exercise was designed to mobilize sponsorship and voluntary contributions towards the organization of an event. So I'm unable to understand how this can then be described as extortion. Be that as it may, it is important for us to appreciate that if indeed it is extortion, as an institution or public officers, you want to extort money from people, and you set up or you agree to receive these monies that have been extorted to be paid into a designated account in the ministry, and go ahead to issue receipts, official receipts. What kind of extortion is that? Thank you.
Honourable Minister, did you or the minister responsible for overseeing the event benefit privately in any way from the organization of the event?
No, honorable member. No officer of the ministry that was connected with this event benefited personally from the preparations in respect of this event.
Mr. Chairman, my last question in clarification, and it's for emphasis. We have a document from the Honorable Mohammed Mubarak Muntaka. He submitted yesterday. It's a press, it's curled from the internet of December 17th, 2017. It actually has your picture on the cover. Do you have the benefit of that document? I'll show it to you. This is it. I'll let you have it. But I want you to respond to the first paragraph. It says, the Ministry of Trade and Industry has dissociated itself from reports suggesting that it charged expatriates between $100,000 to $25,000 to enable them sit close to the president at an awards ceremony. Did the ministry charge expatriates between $100,000 to $25,000 specifically to enable them sit next to the president at the award event?
Honorable member, the ministry did not do any such thing. And I believe that this matter is aligned to the allegation of extortion. How can an event that was sponsored on the basis of voluntary contribution, an event that was not a ticketed event, you don't have to buy a ticket to attend, how can then a situation arise where it is being interpreted that the ministry charged various sums of money to attend this event? And, honorable member, the very fact that there's evidence to establish that there were individuals and companies who were seated on the presidential high table who made absolutely no contribution, both before and after, but sat on the high table, in itself suggests that it could not have been the case that people were being forced to pay money to sit at the high table. If you were forced to pay money, how come you were sitting at the high table and you did not pay any money? There's no logic connecting the two. Secondly, the fact that there are individuals and companies who sat at the high table who made voluntary contributions after the event. After the event, you go to attend a function. If indeed there was force and threat issued that required you to pay money before you attend the event. Meanwhile, you did not pay to attend the event. And after the event, on your own volition, you are making contribution. As the Americans will say, it doesn't add up. The fact that at least one individual who was seated on the presidential high table has come out publicly to confirm that he made an insignificant contribution, 13,000 Ghana cedis, compared to the alleged 100,000. You see, we have to focus on the allegation. The allegation is that people paid $100,000 to be seated on the high table. Here is an individual seated on the high table who has come out publicly to confirm that he paid he contributed. There's a distinction. He contributed 13,000. They don't add up. And that is 13,000 Ghana cedis. So how does this support the allegation?
Honorable Minister, my last question. Has anybody who paid money had a private event with the president after the award by virtue of having paid money to sit with the president?
No, and I cannot imagine that that will be the case. But the answer is no. His Excellency, the President, is a very busy man. I submit.
Minister, I want it to be emphatically stated, and I'm asking you the question again, because in the benefits package that the designers provided, there was a provision for a private dinner with His Excellency, or with the President. We don't know at this point which President. The benefit package, the first level, has a line in it which says a private dinner with the President at a later date. Please, can you clarify for us if that President, as far as you are aware, is within your knowledge, and if such a thing has happened?
Honorable Member, as I've indicated earlier on, and I've re-echoed it several times, I do not want to be speaking for and on behalf of the organizers as the foundation that had responsibility for mobilizing the resources. However, since you fielded this question, and we are all applying common sense and logic to understand how we respond to that question. Now, if it is indeed indicated in the benefits package that there will be dinner for two with the President, that I believe is the issue that you are talking. So let's take, for example, a situation where in response to this sponsorship drive, you had about 20 or 30 people paying 100,000, assuming that were the case. So the interpretation is that all those 30 people, after this event, will now have private dinner with the President.
Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Thank you. I'll ask few questions. Don't worry. I'm not going to spend too much time on the witness.
No leading question.
No leading questions. I agree with you. Minister, what do you say to an assertion which was canvassed before this committee yesterday, that the whole idea of GEBA, as the awards started from the presidency. That assertion was made before us by a witness yesterday, that the whole thing started from the presidency. Is that the case?
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, I did not watch the proceedings yesterday. We're attending a cabinet meeting, so I didn't have the benefit of seeing or hearing the testimonies provided yesterday. But in one of the documents that I've intended, precisely the one that makes reference to my statement, in which I submitted that neither the president nor any official of the presidency was connected directly or indirectly with the organization of this event. I stand by that.
Thank you. To the best of your knowledge, was the name of the President of the Republic of Ghana used in raising funds for this event?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I go back to my earlier submission that that responsibility was bestowed on the foundation to organize, the solicit funds for the event. And so I would not know in detail exactly the type of communication in all cases that that went on between the organizers and then the potential sponsors.
In Moti 1, that's the MOU that your ministry has with the foundation, if you look at 1.73, it talks about the stakeholders to be invited to constitute the planning committee. The last bit of it says, and other potential agencies. Did you identify any other potential agencies to be part of the planning committee?
Mr. Chairman, before I respond to that, just also to add to my earlier response, it is provided in one of the documents that we tendered that there was specific instruction from me that no monetary contribution ought to be used as a condition for either attending or sitting at the high table. Just wanted to add that. Yeah. And yeah.
In that case, I will stay the previous question, the question I asked.
Okay.
It should stay.
Yeah.
Then I do a follow-up.
Okay.
Because my question to you was, did it ever come to your notice that the foundation has used the name of the President of the Republic in raising funds? Did it ever come to your notice, attention?
No, Mr. Chairman, it never came to our attention that occurred.
You can then go back to 1.73 and other potential agencies, whether any such potential agencies were identified.
The Private Enterprise Foundation was co-opted as a member of the planning committee.
Thank you. I will come back to Moti 1, but before then, Let me go to Moti 2. You have told this committee that the only attachment you had to Moti 2, which is the letter written by Honorable Carlos Kinsri Ahinkra to introduce GEBA to the expatriate businesses, introduce the foundation to expatriate businesses, is the criteria qualification. Is that what you said?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Chairman.
Do you stand by that?
Yes, I do stand by that.
I will want to let you have a look at a document that was tendered yesterday by two witnesses who appeared before us, Honorable Muntaka and Honorable Okujeto Abrakwa. No, please show it to me. Get me your copy. So, Minister, on the flip side of the document that you said you attached to the letter, you have another document titled GEBA / Government of Ghana Partner, a strictly black tie event, Ghana Expatriate Business Awards, partnership categories and benefits. Did you develop, your ministry develop this document?
No, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as you see from that document, this is the benefits package, the sponsorship package under reference in this investigation. And as I've said and repeated, the design, the format, the structure of this document was the responsibility of the foundation. But for the avoidance of doubt, I've also made reference to the fact that in submitting that letter signed by my deputy minister, a criteria qualification was attached, which is different from the benefits or sponsorship package. The two are different documents.
Was there any printing at the back of the criteria qualification document? Was there any printing on the flip side of it?
No, Mr. Chairman. That is why I find it very strange that this document has been tendered in evidence before this committee. Ordinarily, I would not like to make a value judgment about the integrity of any person. But I am not sure who is claiming ownership of this document, because it has been formally submitted. But I can tell you respectfully, Mr. Chairman, that what the Deputy Minister issued as a letter and the attachment, which is the criteria qualification, is very different from what has been tendered in evidence. It can only be the handiwork of someone who intended fraudulently to align the benefits package to the criteria letter. But as I said, I'm not aware who is claiming ownership of this. But in fact, I'm not sure whether the committee required whoever submitted this to establish where and the source of this. But as far as I'm concerned, and as Minister for Trade and Industry, what went out is what I'm describing. And to further elaborate on this point, the letter issued by my deputy minister, if you look at the date, and this was issued much earlier, in October. My understanding from the briefing that we had subsequently, that was somewhere in November. So,
are you talking about this sponsorship?
Yes.
Document?
So I'm saying that it is not the case, and it could not have been the case, that at the time that the letter signed by the deputy minister was being issued, that you could have had an attachment which consisted of both the criteria and then the sponsorship package, as we are seeing here as an exhibit. This is a fraudulent document.
That judgment is ours, Mesa. It's not yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You were inquiring whether we asked. Yesterday, we had the opportunity of putting or asking, and those who tendered said they supplied it as they receive it. That was their assertion, that they didn't make any alterations. So maybe it is for us to do further inquiry to know how it came. If your side of the story is true, we should be able to find out how it happened the way. But let me find out from you whether your ministry in any way was involved in the distribution of the sponsorship package.
Mr. Chairman, as I indicated, the design in terms of the package, the distribution, was the responsibility of the private foundation.
Mr. Minister, I will go to I'm not under pressure. You're pulling my legs. Mr. Minister, Moti 6 is the letter you received from the foundation. That is the inception letter. It's titled Top Expatriates Business Awards, Ghana, into bracket Teva. But you ended up with Ghana Expatriate Business Awards. Are they talking about the same thing?
Yes, the reference is to the same event.
So are you suggesting to us that somewhere along the line, the two parties changed the designation or the title to Ghana instead of Top?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that this was changed during the planning committee meetings.
Very well.
Mr. Chairman, whilst you're on this, you recall that the honorable member, I believe it was Honorable Aveji, who requested for a copy of the official copy of the letter that you've just referred to. And it is now in our possession, and I would like, with your permission, to tender this.
Can we have a look at it? A photocopy is as good as the original. The document that we have here is accepted. Yeah, the evidence. You are a lawyer, you know. The original is here. The chairman must have a test. The chairman must have a test. Okay, we've seen the original, and you've given us photocopies. So we shall return the original to your custody. It's for official purposes. So we have seen it. So the original goes back. Mr. Minister, how was the letter Moti 2 distributed amongst the expatriate community? The letter written by your deputy.
Mr. Chairman, the letter was distributed by the foundation as provided for under the MOU.
Has the foundation raised any issues about the accounts as you have settled? You agreed on the accounts, the receipts and expenditures that you have put before us with the foundation, and the two parties are okay with it?
Mr. Chairman, no issues have been raised by the foundation in respect of the accounts.
Have you been informed, or has it come to your knowledge, that the foundation is pursuing some of the invited guests for contributions?
Mr. Chairman, that has not come to my attention or knowledge.
The people who sat on the high table, you gave us a list of 17. If we take out the government functionaries and the former president and his wife, the businesses or the business owners who sat at the high table with you and the president and others, were they part of the recipients of awards? Did they receive awards, all of them?
I can't recollect exactly how many of them received awards, but yes, some of them received awards.
Can we have that information subsequently?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that can be provided.
I heard your name. I heard the name of your Deputy Minister, Carlos Ahenkra. Were other ministers of state at the function?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there were other ministers of state who attended the function, and many of them actually presented prizes to the awardees.
Do you stand by your assertion that your ministry did not impose any levy?
Mr. Chairman, a levy is generally defined as an amount such as a tax, fee, or fine imposed, charged, exacted, and collected by compulsion or legal authority. As I've described earlier on, the sponsorship was voluntary contribution by individuals towards the organization of the event. And so the ministry could not have imposed a levy, because these were voluntary contributions. And this is not the first time that you have events of this nature being organized, soliciting for sponsorship. And so this could not in any way be described as a levy. And indeed, Mr. Chairman, how is it that in the public domain, the allegations were originally described as extortion? In the memorandum, in the motion that was moved, and on the basis of which this special committee was established, the description that is being provided here is that it was a levy. So where do we stand on this matter? Was it extortion? Was it a levy? In all humility, what the exercise that was conducted was neither extortion nor the imposition of a levy.
It could be extorted donations.
Psychological extortion.
Yesterday we came to some conclusion like that. Mr. Minister, I take you back to Moti 2. Sorry, not Moti 2. The documents that I supplied to you recently, some few minutes ago, the sponsorship package, the second page, you have told us that in the MOU and in your press statement that it was an agreement between you and the foundation that monies realized from the fundraising activity should be deposited or paid into a designated account of Moti. I hope I'm right.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Chairman.
So you look at the foot of that page. kindly send your checks to the head of finance at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Mr. Martin. I hear the name is Ayamga, not Ayanga. Room 308, thank you. Kindly note that all payments should be done in Ghana cedis. Did you provide this information to the organizers to pay to Mr. Ayamga?
Mr. Chairman, again, going back to my earlier submission, this was managed and distributed by the private foundation. Now, so you find that the reference to where the money should be paid is on the sponsorship package. But it was agreed that that whole exercise will be managed by the private foundation.
But I was asking whether this information was supplied by the ministry to them so that they will know where to lodge or to pay. People should know where to pay.
Yes, indeed. It is in the MOU. I mean, it was a reference from the MOU that there will be a designated account and the monies will be received into the designated account.
The awards that were issued out, has any of the companies that participated in the event complained of unfairness of the selection of the awardees?
Chairman, one matter that has not come into the public domain is the role that was played by KPMG. And as we are all aware, this a reputable international organization that has experience in undertaking this type of exercise. And so they were the ones who undertook this exercise. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. There has been no complaints by any individual in respect of this.
Thank you, Minister. I will take you to Motive 5. And I want a confirmation or otherwise of an earlier assertion. Paragraph 3. This was the paragraph that a witness read out to the committee yesterday and concluded that the whole idea came from the presidency. Upon the conception of the novel idea, the foundation informed the government through the presidency, and further sought partnership with the Ministry of Trade and Industry in the organization of the first ever award event targeted at recognizing and rewarding the contributions of the expatriate and naturalized expatriate community to the socioeconomic advancement of the country over the decades. For the avoidance of doubt, this is the first of its kind in Africa. What meaning do you make? Is it when you issue this statement, were you saying that the idea of GEBA emanated from the presidency?
Mr. Chairman, no. Again, it's clear on the face of the record. It says that upon the conception of the novel idea, so the issue of where it emanated from is not in doubt based on this phrase. Secondly, it says that foundation informed the government. And again, the express words used here is information. So I'm unable to extend and stretch this matter to suggest that the presidency conceived of the idea, because it's clear. He said that the conception was that of the foundation, and the presidency was just informed.
The high table has been variously described, even before this committee, that seats at the high table were sold to the highest bidder. We were also told, and we have read also, that it's cash for seats. Even some of the media houses, in reporting the proceedings of yesterday, cash for seats probe. What do you make of these descriptions of the high table?
Mr. Chairman, again, as I've referred to earlier on, the only way one can sustain an argument that people were compelled to pay specific sums of money to sit at the high table is to produce evidence to that effect. Because I've submitted on oath before this committee that it was voluntary contribution to raise monies to finance an award. That people had to pay money to sit there. And this is simple logic. There are people who were seated on the high table. They did not pay monies either before or after. So how then could this be described as a situation where you had to pay X amount to sit there?
The MOU you have with the foundation subsists. It's still valid, right?
Yes, Chairman. Your microphone. Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you look at the termination clause, or in this case, the dissolution clause, it says the collaboration shall be dissolved at any time by unanimous resolution of the collaborators, passed at a meeting of the collaborators called for that purpose. The collaboration may also be terminated by unanimous in writing signed by all the collaborators. Upon termination of the collaboration, the initiative reverts to the Millennium Excellence Foundation. So this has not occurred. And then, 120. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. 120 in terms of the MOU also talks about the duration, and it is consistent with the provision that I just read, that this MOU is valid from the 5th of July 2017 until such time that the collaborators decide to dissolve the relationship. So you can read the two provisions together.
An allegation of corruption was also canvassed before us yesterday. And when the member or the witness was asked to define corruption, he said the use of public office for a private gain. In the course of this whole idea of organizing GEVA, has it come to your notice that any of the stakeholders or the people involved has used his position as a public officer to make a private gain in any form?
No, Mr. Chairman, categorically no. No such information has come to my attention, and I'll be surprised if that were the so. But no such information has come to my attention.
Thank you. Please take your Constitution of Ghana, the 1992 Constitution. Article 284. Again, yesterday, there was an allegation of conflict of interest. And Article 284 was cited. A public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. Like I asked you before, I want to know whether it has also come to your notice or attention that any of the public officers has put himself or herself in a conflict of interest situation as far as the organization of GEVA is concerned.
No, Mr. Chairman, nothing of that nature has come to my attention.
President Rawlings and his wife were invited.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Are you aware that President Rawlings, on 31st December, made some remarks about the issues that surround GEVA?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware.
I'm looking for a document to show you. There's a document I'm holding, and it says, deal with 100,000 case saga. 100K saga. Rawlings to Akufo-Addo. Former President Jelly John Rawlings has charged President Nana Akufo-Addo to ensure that the 100,000 access fee, access in quote, saga is resolved. Speaking at the 36th anniversary of the 31st December Revolution in Ho on Sunday, he was emphatic that one cannot also overlook reports of official indiscretion in the cash for dinner seats affair. Is there any case of official indiscretion in the organization of GEVA?
Mr. Chairman, not that I'm aware of. And the use of the word official indiscretion, if it is being conveyed as it is now within a certain context, then it will be useful to know that context. But otherwise, there's no evidence of official indiscretion, except as conjured in the minds of some individuals. I'm not aware, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are you aware that the minority in Parliament, through Honorable Samuel Okudzeto-Abrakwa, MP for North Tongue, has issued a press release or a press statement with regard to Geba issue?
That has not come to my attention, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I hold in my hand a press release. I'll let you have a copy to look at it. The heading is "Stop Desecrating Office of President and Refund Extorted Amounts to Expatriates." Very definite statement. Stop desecrating the office of president and refund extorted amounts to expatriates. This document was put in evidence yesterday. That's why I'm asking you questions relating to it. Has the Ministry of Trade or the organization of GEBA in any way desecrated the office of the president?
Mr. Chairman, as will be evident from my submissions before this committee, it is absolutely clear from the testimony provided by the beneficiaries of this whole event that rather than it being described and conveyed as a desecration of the office of the president, that rather it was an elevation of the image of the presidency and of the government of this country. That we could collaborate with a private sector institution to organize for the first time in the history of this country an event to reward expatriate business executives for their contribution to the development of our country. How does this constitute a desecration of the office? If you are describing this as a matter of extortion, and you have not been able to establish even a case of any individual coming forward to say that monies were obtained by force or threat, which is what extortion will be referring to, prior to the event, then how does this issue become one of desecrating the office of the president? I do not understand that.
You took the sail out of my wind, or the wind out of my sail, the wind out of my sail. That's why you are here, so that you surprise Mr. Hassan when necessary.
As an honorable lawyer, yeah.
Yeah, we're mates, classmates at the law school, so. And Yabuamin was there too. You were a doctor. You were young then. You were very young. Honorable Minister, I want to end on this note, but I want to read out, because you say you have not had the benefit, I want to read out, or if we can get you a copy to go through, then I can ask you some questions relating to that press conference, because there are issues that I want you to respond to. Yeah, what do you have? Just bear with us for some 2 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to apply for special leave to just ask a question with respect. You remember, I asked for the letter, the original letter to Moti. And I didn't have, no, this is from the foundation to Moti. And when the Honorable Minister brought the original, I just compared it with what was submitted earlier, which we labeled as Moti 6. And it has MEF original letter to Moti. Honorable Minister, do you have both documents with you?
I have the copy of the official one that we submitted.
Let me finish, then we will come in so that we will not mess up the evidence. Minister, are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Paragraph Paragraph 5, as in reference to Geba. The honorable member says, has the MPP government not used a so-called awards ceremony as a ruse to freeze the expatriate community? Will the expats be wrong in feeling this way? What's your response to those questions?
Mr. Chairman, these are very strong words to use, coming from an honorable member of parliament who has been in government and occupied the position of a deputy minister. To use these words without establishing, and maybe I haven't had the opportunity of going through it since it was just given to me. Using these very strong words without establishing the basis for coming to that conclusion, even though it is being posed as a question. But normally, there must be an indication of some specific things that have arisen that would suggest that an honorable member of parliament can come to this conclusion. Maybe I haven't read the entire piece. Yes. Mr. Chairman, if you have, maybe you can give me guidance and lead me to statements made earlier on which directly leads us to this question.
Let me take you back to the first paragraph, probably. The confirmation by the Trade Ministry that indeed expatriate business people were charged and had to pay $100,000 to gain access to the table of the President of Ghana during the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards gala on December 2, which is even wrong. It was December 4. 2017 marks a new low. The way it is, I will take you one after the other to respond to all the issues that I have chronologically. So this first paragraph says that your ministry has confirmed that expatriate business people were charged $100,000 to gain access to the table of the president, and that it marks a new low. What's your take on that?
Mr. Chairman, I wish I had the benefit of seeing where that confirmation is reflected. I do not have any evidence to suggest that the ministry has confirmed that they to charge by what means. As I've already described, this is a very simple exercise, not complicated. A private events management organization collaborates with government to organize an awards event, something that occurs frequently. And as part of this exercise, they organize a sponsorship with different levels of benefits aligned to different sponsorship packages. And they ask for voluntary contributions. This is done all the time. So where is it that the ministry confirmed that the ministry charged 100,000 to do what? So I do not see where the confirmation comes from. And if the honorable member of parliament was here, I will find out. When you talk about charge, what does it mean? Is a voluntary contribution now being converted to charge? And what right does the ministry have to be charging people, whether expatriate or not, to attend an event? And who would submit himself to become a victim of such a charge? For what purpose?
The following paragraphs have already been alluded to in your answers, so I want to jump over some of them and come to paragraph 6. He says, my position will surely have been different if this particular fundraising concept was carefully utilized to raise funds for a worthy humanitarian cause. For a worthy humanitarian cause, probably towards cancer patients, leukemia patients, malaria eradication, re-equipping our hospitals, or towards paying the medical bills of suffering children whose parents cannot afford, but certainly not debasing the presidency in this manner. Then the next paragraph. I have my strongest of doubts that President Rawlings, Kufuor, Mills, and Mahama would have permitted this during their tenure. What's your response to this?
Mr. Chairman, I am unable to determine the motive of the author of this statement. I'm unable to determine his motive or objective or what was going through his mind in penning these words. But let me just state, just for the record, that if the honorable member is suggesting that he has no knowledge of any such previous exercise where an events management company is organizing an event and mobilizing sponsorship, which is voluntary contribution, towards covering the expenses for organizing that event, whether he has no knowledge of such an exercise previously. Because if indeed he has, what is the basis for coming to this conclusion? My position would surely have been different if this particular fundraising concept, I don't even need to be reading this to this honorable committee. An event or company working together with the government come to a common objective understanding that they are co-organizing an event for a certain purpose. And you are talking about other matters that are not the subject of our common understanding, which was reflected by the MOU. I do not understand this.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. The last paragraph on that page, on the first page, the least the Ministry of Trade and Industry should be doing at this point, instead of seeking to justify their shameful conduct, is to apologize to President Akufo-Addo. That is, if he did not grant his blessings for this desecration of the high office he occupies, apologize to Ghanaians and refund the extorted sums to the expatriates. Any response?
Mr. Chairman, again, it's regrettable that we have to spend executive time to be discussing this matter. In a previous part of the statement that you read, this honorable member is saying that I have my strongest of doubts that President Rawlings, Kufuor, Mills, and Mahama would have permitted this during their tenure. You are saying you have the strongest of doubts. You are describing by logical implication that our president, his president, the honorable member's president, that you have your strongest doubt that other presidents preceding him would have permitted this. This suggests that you were already making some kind of conclusion without any basis, without any facts. And then you come in the last paragraph, you are talking about the least that the Ministry of Trade and Industry should be doing at this point, instead of seeking to justify their shameful conduct, is to apologize to President Akufo-Addo, the man who you have referred to in comparing him with his predecessors in such terms, an honorable member of Parliament. And now you are coming to say that the Ministry of Trade should apologize to President Akufo-Addo. You know, I do not know what was going on in his mind as an honorable member when he was uttering these words. But these are very strong words. Even for me, as minister responsible for trade and industry, that honorable member of parliament can suggest that the least the Ministry of Trade and Industry should be doing at this point, instead of seeking to justify their shameful conduct. What is the basis for these kinds of words that the honorable member is using? And why is he doing that? You have now applied on motion to ask the Parliament of Ghana to be recalled and for an allegation that you have made to be investigated, and you have already made a statement and you have come to a determination. So what is the purpose of the motion seeking now to investigate this matter? Unless this statement came after the recall of Parliament. I'm not sure, because this is the first time I'm seeing this. Maybe you can guide me on this matter.
It came before.
It came before?
It's dated 18th.
Oh. So the honorable member put this in circulation. As I said, in this age of technological advancement, when this statement by an honorable member of parliament has reached all the corners of the world, he has not been able to establish the basis of what he's talking about. Because if he had, what is the basis of the parliamentary inquiry? You have already come to a conclusion. And you are describing the act of the Ministry of Trade, supervised by me, as shameful conduct. And then now you are asking the Parliament of Ghana to be recalled now to investigate an allegation of the imposition of a levy. You are talking about shameful conduct, extortion, in superlative terms. Now, when you were bringing a motion, you supported and you seconded the motion. You did not talk about extortion anymore. When you had the flexibility and the leverage to describe what should go into the motion, you didn't talk about extortion. You wanted the Parliament of Ghana to investigate a case of levy. So why are we even discussing this statement, Mr. Chairman?
When we are doing it, you are just blocking us. Blocking us. Now look at what you are.
The last paragraph on the second page, it is emerging that this whole episode appears to dent our image in many expatriate and diplomatic circles. I do hope that salvaging measures will be employed in the immediacy to save what is left of our image. So we have a little image as a country. So what's your response?
Mr. Chairman, as I said, I didn't have the benefit of reading the whole text of this statement. So literally, you are leading me through it. So when I read the earlier statements, it was difficult for me to understand what was going through the mind of the honorable member of parliament. But when you make a conclusion with these words, it makes it even more serious. And let us read it again for the benefit of this committee. It is emerging. Emerging from where? It is emerging from where? And by whom? And through whom? that this whole episode about what? Appears, is now talking about appears, to dent our image in many expatriate and diplomatic circles. How is the honorable member coming to that conclusion? How is the honorable member coming to that conclusion? I do hope that salvaging measures will be employed in the immediacy to save what is left of our image. An honorable member of the Parliament of Ghana saying that I hope that the salvaging measures will be employed in the immediacy to save what is left of the image of Ghana. The image of Ghana. These are very serious statements. You are talking about diplomatic circles. I mean, I've had the honor and privilege of being Ghana's ambassador to the United States. The honorable member of parliament is telling me he has a way of measuring and determining in diplomatic circles the image of our country. And that this has gone so low that unless salvaging measures are employed in the immediacy to save what is left of the image of Ghana. Mr. Chairman, I leave it in your capable hands to write a report, because this was submitted as part of evidence before you. Is that correct?
It references to it. A member asked him questions relating to it, and he even read it and affirmed it. He affirmed it. Yes. He affirmed it before the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, one of your officials is an allegation until proven, alleged to have said this: I will be a hypocrite to say that there were others who sat at the table with Nana Akufo-Addo and did not pay. As a platinum sponsor, you had to fulfill some obligations. If an event organizer decides to tag a category of an event as a presidential circle, I don't think there is anything wrong with that. He continued, the government partnered the foundation so that the private sector will know that the government is in full support of the event. We wanted to make sure that monies paid did not influence who won an award. The monies were paid into the Ministry of Trade and Industry account because we didn't want post-event challenges. Mr. Saeed Fakri, CEO of Dream Realty and Innisfree, also paid $100,000 to sit at the table with the president. However, he paid and won on merit. In all the speculations and allegations going around, we are happy that the ministry and organizers are not fighting. Nothing untoward went on during the event. Winning an award was not based on the highest bidder. There were some companies who did not pay anything but won awards. I don't know if you can put everything together or I break it.
No.
The PRO of the, he was speaking to Francis Aban, Morningstar, Monday, spokesperson for the Trade Ministry, Prince Wachi.
Mr. Chairman, I'm the head of the ministry. That is why I'm sitting here, taking responsibility for what happens in my ministry. Whether it is my deputy or it is my PRO. Once I have the benefit of knowing what they said, I have to defend it or come out and correct the impression as required. If it is being said and it is being reported that this is what my PRO said, that nobody paid $100,000 to sit at the table. Is that, sorry? Oh, so now it's changed from. This
is a statement from the PRO.
Yes.
First, he says, I will be a hypocrite to say that there were others who sat at the table with Nana Akufo-Addo and did not pay. I think you have
that means that there were people who.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and he goes on, as a platinum sponsor, you had to fulfill some obligations. If an event organizer decides to tag a category of an event as a presidential circle, yeah, I don't think there is anything wrong with that. And he continues, the government partnered the foundation so that the private sector will know that the government is in full support of the event. We wanted to make sure that monies paid did not influence who won an award. The monies were paid into the Ministry of Trade and Industry account because we did not want post-event challenges. Mr. Saeed Fakri, CEO of Dream Realty and Innisfree, also paid $100,000 to sit at the table with the president. However, he paid and won on merit. Saeed Fakri, when did he pay the $100,000, if he did pay $100,000?
Mr. Chairman, that was exactly what I was referring to. Evidence has been laid before this committee that Mr. Saeed Fakri made payment on the 5th of December after the event. I also made a submission to the effect that Mr. Fakri has been known to His Excellency the President for over 40 years. And His Excellency the President, when in private practice, was the legal advisor to Mr. Fakri's company. Are we suggesting, by any stretch of imagination, with this information available, that Mr. Fakri, that the ministry had to extort $100,000 from Mr. Fakri to sit at the high table? And the statement that, Mr. Chairman, you read is that it is being alleged that he paid $100,000 to sit. I think the construction is very important, that he paid $100,000 to sit at the table. That is the statement. And I think what he's saying is that he did not pay $100,000 to sit. That is number one. And that the award to Mr. Fakri was also based on merit, because they went through a certain process. And anybody who knows Interplast, the last thing we should be doing is sitting in a committee to be describing whether Interplast, Mr. Fakri, can win an award in an expatriates awards event or not.
Is Mr. Fakri also connected to Dream Realty?
Yes. He is the founder and owner and executive chairman of Interplast. And then a sister company, my understanding, I mean, this needs to be verified, is the Dream Realty that you are referring to. And they are co-owners of Octagon, the signature building that is in the center of Accra, close to Novotel, which adorns the skyline of Accra, and the co-owner of such a property has to pay $100,000 to sit at a high table.
Is Mr. Fakri also connected with Innisfree? There's a company, or is the same company? It's Dream Realty and Innisfree. It's one and the same company.
No,
that's why I'm asking.
Same company, but
Mr. Chairman, I do not know about the latter one, yes.
Okay, that would be all from my side. So, Honorable Dr. Ayini.
Thank you. No, it's just back to the document that I got earlier that I requested for. Honorable Minister, you have, did we label it? The Moti 5. No, Moti 6. Moti 6. Exhibit 6. That is the letter from, yes. Now, Honorable Minister, you remember that you gave us a copy earlier, and I raised issues regarding it was Honorable Abeji who raised an issue regarding whether the letter had been stamped, and you brought us the original. Now, I compared the original with what you brought us earlier. And if you look at the original on the left-hand side, it has His Royal Majesty, then down there it has Ambassador James Victor Beho as President, former Minister of Foreign Affairs and ECOWAS, and then Ambassador Ashim Morton as Founder and Chairman. Are you following me? Yes. Okay, that is on the left-hand side. Yes. And then it has all kinds of names down there. Now let's go, that is on the original. Let's go to the one you presented to us earlier. All right? It has Ambassador Victor Beho, this time as chairman, not president. Are you noticing that?
Yes, Honorable Member.
And then Ambassador Ashim Morton is the president. Have you seen that?
Yes, Honorable Member, I've seen that.
Yes, so what explains these differences? This is the same letter written to your ministry. You gave us the first copy, and then when we asked for the original, you brought the original, and the original differs from the first copy, but you'll see that the date of the letter is the same, the content is the same, but also apart from that, Honorable Minister, can you go to the last page of the letter? Can you compare the two signatures? Have you seen the two signatures?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then have you seen the title of the person signing? So it's the same person as Jim Morton. In one of the letters, the one that you brought earlier, he says President. And then in the one that is the original which you supplied us later, it is Chairman. How do you explain the differences? Or should I put it to him when he comes before the committee?
Mr. Chairman, you've answered the question yourself.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
But just for purposes of clarification, I think the question was put probably by Honorable Afeji of Georgia. Honorable Afeji.
Of course, get to know.
Get to know.
Yes.
And I think you wanted to have a copy of the letter that was issued to the ministry. Now, what we had available with us was not the official copy. But I think because you wanted to speak to it, what we had, we submitted. And you requested for an official copy, which we have provided. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm unable to understand why we are now being questioned over the letterhead of a private company. So, as the Honorable Ayene said, when he comes before the committee, I think that question could be put to them. So,
Honorable Minister, that's fine.
So for the purposes of this committee,
this is relevant because you tendered the document in evidence, right? And it was written to you, so it's emanating from proper custody. It is only fair that I put this to you. And if you don't have an appropriate answer, we can wait for him to come and then confirm why. In one breath, he is president, and in another, he's chairman, all right? And then exchanges that position with Victor Beho at some point in time, okay? And you do know that the issue of president, whether it is President Akufo-Addo or it is President Hashim Morton, it's relevant, it's material, right? Thank you very much. And then, Minister, just before you go, I see that someone minuted minute number 6.
First, Mr. Chairman, can I apply through you to withdraw the uncertified copy of this letter under reference and submit this for purposes of the record? So we submit that the official copy for purposes of the record of this. And then, sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, in response to the honorable member's latter question, we would like to submit and tender in evidence the response of the ministry to the letter that we've just been discussing.
Moti 9. And Minister, we want to remind you of the following documents which the ministry has to supply: the PVs, and then the bank account details, and then the receipt book, which you have. And we also spoke about minutes of the planning committee.
So, Mr. Chairman, we already have the details of the bank account here. It's not typed, but
we'll take it as it is.
You take it as it is. So we'll tender this. And then the others will provide them as soon as practicable.
But the receipt book, you have it.
Yeah, the receipt book we have.
So I will take custody of it.
Yes.
I will take good care of it. It won't go anywhere. So this will be Moti 10, the bank account details. No, so you run copies.
Yeah.
Okay. Speak. Honorable Minister, we want to thank you most sincerely for answering to our invitation and being with us. I think it's been a long day, and we don't have any further questions for you. So we want to decide you at this stage. If there's a need for us to get further clarification from you, we will do so. We are most grateful for being here. Yourself, your deputies, and all the officials from the ministry. Grateful.
Thank you, Chair. And Chair, let me use this opportunity also to thank sincerely members of this special committee for taking time off their very busy schedule to take us through this process. But I must say before we take leave of you that it is a matter of very deep concern for me, and I believe for many Ghanaians, that a matter of this nature has been elevated to a public controversy and has led to a parliamentary inquiry. And I want it to be put on record that it is our hope that we go through this process and by the grace of God that no adverse findings are established through this process. But in that case, it will be a matter of deep regret that as a country, we have had to endure a controversy that has the potential of making very significant damage to our international reputation. If in the minds of the international public, it is indeed the case that the government of Ghana is extorting money from expatriates who have invested their monies in this country, do we not believe and appreciate the impact that it will have on Ghana's capacity to mobilize investments into this country? I hope that, as I said earlier on, that we'll come to a final determination of this matter. But the damage that is being caused and would have been caused by putting it out that the government is extorting money from individuals, from the expatriate business community. Until now, I have not heard or seen any individual make a specific allegation in respect of extortion or levy. But I've made my submissions, and hopefully that will come to the end of this matter. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you also for the concluding remarks. Before we finally wind up, we want to acknowledge the following television stations and radio stations who carried the proceedings live: GTV, Joy TV, Ghana One TV, GH1 TV, City FM, and we also want to appreciate all
the cash for seat scandal probe ongoing in Parliament there. We've been here to bring you all the live events. Of course, the Minister for Trade and Industry locking horns with one of the members, actually, Mr. Aveji. There. We'll bring you more and some analysis in the subsequent bulletins. Daryl Kwao is standing by to bring you business live. This is how I wrap up the polls. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Have a great weekend.